As I started working, having a young family, quite honestly, I wandered away from the church. I spent probably 13 years not really going to church. And we moved out here in the early 2000s for me to take a position running an office in Silicon Valley. And everything was going in my direction. But what was interesting was 9/11 happened, and it caused our family to go seek out a church. Within a couple years was in a small group, had some amazing guys around me who were just living life very authentically and doing their best to follow Jesus. Somewhere along the way there with that group, I started to realize that my priorities were pretty messed up. I had prayed prayers about my family and about surrendering my family to God, but I had never prayed a prayer about surrendering my career to God. And through that group, I started doing that. 3 weeks later, I was talking with my managing partner. With the bubble bursting in Silicon Valley and 9/11 happened, I just asked him, I said, am I the right guy for the job? And his reaction was, you're a great lefty, but I could use a right-handed pitcher right now. And I'll never forget coming home that night and just feeling that sinking pit in my stomach that I was being demoted. And I was crushed. I was actually devastated for months, in fact, maybe even years afterwards. It took me a lot of work to try to figure out what it meant to step down the ladder from a career perspective. And my ego was bruised, but there was part of me that was really excited to see what lay in store, what lay ahead. I think I'd be a very different person today if I continued that path. So am I grateful that God closed that door? I can't even conceive of what my life would be like if he hadn't closed that door. It was really within the year that I heard Steve Haas from World Vision talk about the pandemic of AIDS in Africa. And I just couldn't get the images or the thoughts out of my mind about how many Africans were dying of HIV and AIDS. Just a short time after that my pastor did a sermon on the parable of the talents and finished by asking if anybody wanted to go on an adventure with Jesus. And I remember getting up and walking right up front without even thinking twice about it. And he handed us all a $100 bill. It was the first time I've ever gone to church and had someone hand me money. There were a couple of rules attached. One is it wasn't mine. I had to do something for God, and I had to be willing to come back and tell a story. The story started with our family trying to collect 19 million pennies to show the world what it looked like to say that there were 19 million Africans who died of HIV and AIDS. What it did for our family over the course of the next several years is we worked collecting pennies that cracked the foundation in our garage, setting up a website and doing all of that, and setting up a nonprofit. We realized we didn't know an African who had HIV or AIDS, and so we went to Ethiopia on a mission trip. Now we've been back 6 times as a family. I've been 8 times. It's completely changed our world. We have friends and family in Ethiopia that we care just as deeply about as we care about each other. We put 6.1 million on display at the Democratic and Republican national conventions in 2008, which was a kick. World Vision and the One Campaign asked us to join them in an effort to get delegates involved. But I think more than anything else, it completely redirected the rudder in our family's life.